occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Hello, good evening ladies and gents, welcome back to Chaos TV's live coverage of the EUWChallenger series number 12. It is day number 2 of our EUWChallenger series. I'm Edis, joined by Pulse, and we are live into the picks and bans, as you can see right now, between Haydals Fight Club and Eternity. It's a bit of a head scratcher, this one, Pulse, because I know for a fact I'm going to screw up in game about this one because there's so many tags flying around, but the left side is Eternity and the right side, obviously with Haydal, is Haydals Fight Club.
Yeah, it's going to be very confusing with some of the ex-Eternity players on the opposite team. I have put up post-it notes onto my screen, so I'm gonna hope that works out. But yeah, I'm currently casting over stream right now, and I've literally just sat down. But Zed, Lee Sin, Elise, Shen, Jarvan, and Ari, pretty much blanket bans. I don't really see anything there that I would necessarily say that is specifically targeted. Maybe the Lee Sin against like a particular player, because it really is a skill champion, and if someone is exceptionally good like Ku or like Shook, you want to make sure you take that away from them, either by picking or banning it out.
Yeah, it's very interesting because we have seen Svenskeren in the past actually running Lee Sin, and I remember one time when we were casting together actually, Pulse, he had a scoreline of like 10-0 after 10-15 minutes. So I think it's definitely targeted against him in the jungle. But either way, that is going to allow Thresh and Zac to both get through, who are tier 1 picks right now, both on the side for Haydals Fight Club. So you go into team fights, the box and the let's bounce together. There's a lot of displacement, a lot of slows, a lot of pain.
Yes, indeed, the team fighting potential already shaping up to look very strong. On the flip side, though, I'm currently looking at them hovering over the Kennen and the Zyra, and in fact, they've locked in the Zyra. And so, again, they have good disengage from that strong engage from both Thresh and Elastic Think Shot, courtesy of Zac. And then Kennen will be able to split up the team fight. Looking at the Aatrox pickup, I'll be interested to see if he's in jungle or top lane, because in top lane he can become an absolute monster. In both of those roles, he likes to max the E. Very, very good in terms of what you're spending and how much damage you're actually dealing. 5% of your total HP for a lot of slow and a lot of damage.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned Ko earlier when you're talking about Lee Sin, because he played Aatrox jungle yesterday and had a blinder, 5-0 very quickly in that matchup, just setting up kills left, right and center. So CyrusQ is their jungler normally, so I would assume with this pick it's going to be Aatrox in jungle. Obviously we're going to need to see what the last 2 picks are, but they're hovering over a potential Mundo lock-in, which for me would be very interesting. I haven't seen Mundo in a long time. There we go, they switched it over towards Xin Zhao instead.
Yeah, Mundo doesn't quite fit into the current meta. I mean, he does have strong ganks, but he lacks the CC and utility when getting into mid and late game. As a tank, he doesn't have any ability to get people to focus him down. He doesn't have enough damage when you get into late game for people to think, okay, we need to get rid of Mundo. You can just kite him around. But yeah, the swap up to something like that Renekton would make a lot more sense. Vayne as well. This looks like a classic protect the carry composition with some damage on the side.
Yeah, very true. It's difficult to take out a Vayne, to dive onto Vayne when you've got to go through a box, the Flay, the Death Sentence, the Let's Bounce, the Elastic Slingshot, just everything and the kitchen sink thrown at you. So you have to assume that Vayne is going to be by and large fairly safe to run rampant and run riot here. That being said, they're hovering over Rengar. Now Rengar obviously one of those champions that he can go invisible with his ultimate and can suddenly just put down a lot of damage on Vayne without anybody even realizing. So it would be very interesting to see if they do lock the Rengar. They have gone for a Corki, however, so Corki facing up against Vayne, not a kind of thing that you see too often now in solo queue.
Yeah, Corki will have great lane dominance, extreme damage and great mobility in the laning phase, very difficult to shut down. And also looking at the Zyra, Corki Zyra is something I haven't seen for a while either, but you can definitely see it. They have strong lockdown, good counter initiation, strong response into Valkyrie from from Corki means they'll never really be pinned down. The ganks from Zac will be very strong, but in the bot lane it's almost impossible to get a gank successfully to yield a kill. In the mid lane though, I could say it, and potentially against Kennen, but again, very difficult to gank, especially if he's in the top lane. A lot of room to outmaneuver them with Lightning Rush.
Yeah, very true. So we are waiting for this, the 10th and final pick on the side of Haydals Fight Club. So judging from their lock-ins so far, I would assume it's going to be their mid lane here, Pulse. I mean, Zac could feasibly be played in mid. I guess Renekton could be. It would be slightly out of there, a bit strange. So they're going over the Talon lock-in here. That would make a lot more sense. I would expect it to be their mid champion, as I say. But what would you go for against a Kassadin? Oh, they've already answered the question. They've actually locked in the Talon.
Okay, so yeah, Talon works really well, at least in the early game. He should be able to harass out the Kassadin and could potentially snowball off him as well, because if you get those kills onto Kassadin, not only will he be shut down, but Talon also matches him blow for blow in terms of mobility and roaming potential in at least the laning phase, because when Kassadin gets out of lane, when he hits the level 6 and moves about with Rift Walk, Talon likes to go for something like mobility boot, so he can move about the map at the same pace and then keep up with him and even counter gank. His roaming potential and burst damage is so strong. His scaling is pretty decent as well, but he has in recent months been outclassed by Zed, who in this case has actually been banned out, so you can see why they picked out Talon.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the delay just about to come about, ladies and gents, we've got about 3 minutes left on that. We're going to cut to a very quick commercial break, and rejoin us will be live for game number 1 of the day between Eternity and Haydals Fight Club. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
When I see you in the morning, will you still want to be true? I can dream, I can dream that we'll see a brighter day. And I'm alive, more alive than I've ever been your way. And I'm alive, more alive than I've ever been your way.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to EUWChallenger Series number 12, first game of the first best of 3 of a total of 2 we have today. I am Puss, I am joined by Metas, and we have Eternity in the blue corner facing up against Haydals Fight Club in the red.
Indeed we do, and speaking of Haydals Fight Club, they are all congregating in the same bush, so definitely opting for a potential invade. However, they are going to be walking over that vision ward right now, the sight ward I should say, so they're going to be spotted out, lots of pings going down. CLG.eu is going to find himself in contention with Haydals, but will just be pulling himself back, Paulson. I doubt anything too big is going to kick off around, because it just seems that the blue team, which of course is Eternity, are just going to go and steal the opposition red. They're going to just retaliate in the only way they know how to right now.
Yeah, neither of these teams really looking for a full-on confrontation. The stronger level 1 team fight would definitely go to Haydals Fight Club, so as a result, Eternity are looking to, if not steal the enemy buff, but avoid a confrontation, and that's exactly what they're looking to do. The aggressive ward goes down so they know the current position of Haydals Fight Club, and as a result they've backed on off. So it looks like they're going to have just a sustained start, but with more vision over both of their jungles.
Many wards being planted down here already within the first 2 minutes, so plenty of vision as you say. Svenskaren is looking at starting off on his red buff with some help from Freddy. Whereas it would appear that CLG.eu is going to start off on his red, so a bit of a mirror matchup here from the two junglers' perspectives. It's going to be interesting to see how they transition after this one, if they're potentially going to try and meet up around a blue buff or so. But either way, they are both taking down that red buff. Kennen coming around from the side, however, thinking about a potential steal from Vizik, but is just going to fire out the Shuriken instead.
Yeah, Freddy sticking around will stop a potential steal coming out from Ken, and of course one person could result in a steal in that early game. Trade happening in the bot lane, Haydals trading off with Finite. Huge damage coming out, Ignite goes out onto Corki as well. Grom still following up onto Haydals, doesn't quite pick up the kill. Both AD carries dropping incredibly low, but no first blood just yet.
Yes, but interestingly enough, if you're going to have a look at how that trade went, 3 summoner spells were burnt from Haydals Fight Club there. Both summoners for Vayne, and the Ignite as well from Thresh. Whereas on the opposition, you can see there that only the exhaust from Grom. So in that sense, Pulse definitely coming out slightly ahead.
Yeah, for sure. In the next engagement, they should have a slight upper hand against that Haydals bottom lane. Recall coming out from Thresh, but in the mid lane could potentially see these two junglers meeting with not a gank happening. First blood, in fact, going down at the bot lane, did not even catch that. Grom was taken out by Mixer. Did you catch that, Messers?
I did. It was just the case that Grom went look-sees and got caught with his pants down, face-checking the bottom bush, where the death sentence was waiting for him from Mixer, and also Haydals put down a lot of damage. So first blood going to Thresh. Nice little play from them at bot.
Yeah, didn't quite catch that because I was looking at mid lane with both of the junglers looking, if not to counter jungle, but go for a gank in the mid lane, because that's generally when you see the most action, when both the junglers hit their level 3 and then they look for a gank in one of the lanes, especially if they go toe-to-toe, and you could see a 2 versus 2 in mid. Mid lane, this is kind of interesting because Kasten and Talon isn't a matchup we see too much, but Talon, if he instigates the trade and if he goes in with Noxian Diplomacy and Cutthroat and he lands his combo first, he can trade off more effectively against Lego My Ego. At the same time though, if he lands the silence before he jumps in with Cutthroat, he can find himself stranded without any damage to follow up.
Yeah, but some more damage going down. This time Mixer, who did get the first kill, will be on the receiving end there. Just got caught from the grasping root and the plants afterwards, and finally putting down some serious damage. So even though the first blood did go to Haydals Fight Club, they are on the receiving end of a bit of a battering down here at the bot lane, Pulse. I have to say though, with the double door runs, Vayne's going to be very scary. Death Sentence comes out, but just whiffing. We're not going to follow up on that little mini engage.
Yeah, the lane definitely has the potential to outtrade them really hard and definitely outplay them, but if you just look at the trade straight on, Grom and Finite have more damage, more sustained damage, and better disengage. So if Mixer lands a death sentence onto Grom, then he won't have to disengage, and he is definitely looking to land something onto this lane. Potentially caught here as Finite's trading off against him, knocks him back with Flay. Haydals still following up, gets the third auto attack, resulting in Silver Bolts, but no full engagement. Still dropping low, and still looking for harassment, but backing off.
Yeah, top lane, Svenskeren is thinking about a potential gank. There's no ward down here, so Vizik doesn't actually know if there is an elastic slingshot being charged up in the bush, but his spidey senses are tingling. That is just pure experience and game sense right there. Not overextending, not putting himself in a precarious position. And Talon did find himself. Cyrus just popping around from the side. Svenskeren coming in from the bush there, maybe trying to jump onto this one with the elastic slingshot. Talon was a few steps behind though, Pulse. Looked like he was more content to just get the farm, so didn't follow up on that elastic slingshot landing.
Yeah, Svenskeren's main play there was just to push them away from the turret and stop them harassing Talon so he could just farm underneath his tower, because getting farm early game is very important. He can't afford to fall behind Kassadin, and he can't shut him down as hard as, say, a ranged mid lane could, but he still needs to, like, stay at the same pace, so when they get to the roaming phase, when he hits level 6, but meanwhile the bot lane Haydals potentially called Great Condemn, puts Cyrus against the wall, but Flash into Dark Flight, should be able to pick up the kill. Finite looking for the dive, but Haydals gets out scot-free.
Yes, he does. Had to burn the barrier there, but keeping him alive is more than worth it. In that case, Svenskeren coming back round once again. Here comes Talon from the side, jumping in, doing lots of damage. The bleed is going to tick down, but Lego My Ego is going to be fine. Chugging through 1 health potion, has another 2 in his backpack, so it's not going to put him off staying in lane just yet. But Talon is doing a pretty nice job, Pulse, of actually pushing back Kassadin and staying even on CS.
Yeah, in terms of the character, it's like kind of expected, but he definitely needs to. Looking at the pickaxe, I'm interested in seeing what he's going to pick up. It could be a Tiamat. We saw that, I think, very recently in LCS. It gives him great split pushing potential and increases his burst. Same sort of principle as Lee Sin or anyone else who builds a Tiamat such as Kha'Zix. But then he could just go for a Last Whisper since all his damage is physical. So, multiple routes for Kassadin to go this game.
Yeah, very much true. So even though he did get that first blood going down, apart from that, it has been somewhat of a flirtatious game here, Pulse. Lots of attempts at getting kills, lots of attempts at trying to push down objectives, but to no avail. So that is going to be reflected in the CS globally across the board. Is fairly even, apart from that bot lane that I can see Corki falling 12 CS behind at the bot, but of course his support did die previously, so you can kind of understand where that was coming from. Some toing and throwing going at the top lane, but doesn't look like it's going to pay off, Pulse. So we do have some pings coming out though. The blue buff has just respawned a few seconds prior, so it could be the next point of contention.
Yeah, potential jungle invade from Svenskeren, starting up the blue buff. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, always missing the Zyra kills. Another kill goes onto Zyra, but looking at the blue buff currently, Aatrox is not reacting to it and doesn't have any control over his own jungle. He must know the spawn time is on his own buffs, but clean invade and pick up the buff.
Yeah, indeed. Again, I believe it was just a death sentence landing. So Grom is catching all the skill shots today and needs to make sure that stops very soon, because we spoke about this plenty times before. The Vayne is a very scary late game champion. Getting the kind of laning phase that she's had thus far is just going to elevate her into that stage 5-10 minutes earlier. So from Corki's perspective, it is looking quite scary right now. Vayne and also Thresh are pushing bot lane fairly aggressively, and he's falling further and further behind on CS.
Indeed, and you can guarantee if I just pay more attention to Grom and see if he gets caught, then I'll miss something happening to the junglers who I'm looking more towards. But yeah, Tiamat indeed picked up by Talon, which seems to be what most Talons are going for currently, just because of that burst and pushing potential. Talon will generally perform the split pushing role if they can get him to that stage. Even if he's behind, the Tiamat will give him enough pushing and enough shoving so that he has to commit someone to stop him.
I can definitely understand what you're saying though about the junglers, because it's not often at this kind of tier of play that 2v2s will result in kills. I mean, by and large the players will be dodging each other's skill shots and nothing will happen. And CyrusQ is trying to make a play happen at bot lane, but unbeknownst to him, was actually stood on top of a ward. So with that vision ward, they will be clearing out the site ward and just going back to this farming frenzy. Zach coming around from the side pulse could have some action at bot lane.
Yeah, this is the intervention we are indeed looking for. Charges up, Finite and Grom backing on off. They might be aware of his presence. But indeed, generally when you are just 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2, you don't expect the kills to happen. Unless it's outside intervention, such as a jungle gank or a mid gank as well. Which we do actually expect to see, because we have Talon and Paston, very roamy champions, looking for the potential Shadow Assault to finish off the kill. Didn't have the ignite, otherwise he would have gone all in, but kind of just stomping out his aggression on that lane. Even with his standard combo, Lego My Ego cannot do anything at all. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Grom drops low, dives once again. I finally catch it. In the mid lane, Cassadar picks up the kill, it's casted. Haydals still trading off with Vinite, but can't go any deeper. Mixer not tanking the turret up for him. In the top lane, trading some more blows, and the junglers meet in mid, but I think we're good.
Yeah, it was just the case that Talon was like, okay, screw this, I am going in. And Tassadin unfortunately fell by the wayside. And yeah, bot lane again, Pulse. It was a case that the death sentence landed on Grom. And I don't want to knock on him, I don't want to be flaming him or anything, but that is 4 or 5 times now that he's caught a death sentence out of the bush. Maybe it's just a case of learning from mistakes and being a bit more passive, because this is really making Finite's job on Corki that much harder. Look at Haydal now. He's so far ahead on CS, he's 32 CS ahead and 2-0 and 1. How much gold does that equate to? 1.8k, just under. So when he goes back, he's nearly going to be able to finish off that Blade of the Ruined King. It's not looking good.
No, and supports do need to be aggressive, but not to the point where you get caught by a death sentence. It just seems like Mixer's just landed exceptional death sentence in that lane, because as like someone like Blitzcrank or someone with a hook, it's fairly difficult to land it because minions are a huge problem in the lane, especially if you're waiting in the brush and they just angle the stems correctly. In the mid lane, once again, more aggression coming out from Castar, and you can see the damage and burst from that Tiamat shining through in this early game, so looking to be very scary. If you can lock them down in the mid lane, that will mitigate a lot of Lego My Ego's roaming potential and hurt them in this roaming to mid and laning phase at least. Aatrox looking for a potential gank to happen. He's on about 60%. And even 2 versus 1, I'm not sure if Cassadar would be too unhappy. He might be able to just completely burst someone outright. Aatrox looking for the gank, lands the Blades of Torment, goes in with the Blades of Torment. Shadow Assault comes out very late and doesn't actually pick up anyone. Gets taken out very cleanly.
Yeah, as you're saying, his Shadow Assault came out late, but that's because of the Null Sphere that Cassadin threw in. It silenced Talon. He couldn't pop into his invisibility and such died. A bot lane again, it's going to be Zyra falling. Deja vu, Pulse, I'm starting to get here, and I understand that, you know, Death Sentence is a very strong ability if it lands, but surely at some point Zyra's got to think, okay, let's just start being a bit more passive, let's just start letting the creep wave push to us, get the last hits under the tower so we don't let Vayne get even further ahead. Has a Bilgewater Cutlass and went for Berserker's Greaves instead, so lots of attack speed, lots of threat.
Yeah, 5-1 right now for Haydal's Fight Club. They're in such a good position, and plus Vayne is in a lane that she's winning, and against someone like a Corki Zyra, that should generally be able to suppress out a carry lane like Vayne. Corki will have the damage, but he's more centered towards lane dominance, the mid game, and just has good scaling into the late game, not as much as he used to. Interesting to see what type of build he's going for or has gone for. Already picking up the Ruby Crystal. Showing signs he might be shooting for a Phage and maybe shooting for a Trinity Force, which I could definitely see. Meanwhile, Lego My Ego finds himself caught. The temporary silence comes out. Riftwalk over the wall, ticking down from Red Buff and the Ignite. Not sure if they can fully pin him down. With Kennen coming out, Renekton from the top side. Just to make sure they're not completely split, but with this next invade, they can't allow this blue buff to go away uncontested. Freddy over the wall, moving on to Big Sachi. Huge Blitz comes out, selecting Maelstrom for the counter engage. Lego My Ego just can't fully engage just yet. Looking for the assassination, flashes over the wall from Riftwalk. Another flash from Freddy. Courtney drops him so incredibly low, but the stun comes out. Great kiting so far. Can he keep it up? Victor's actually retreating to his lane. Slice comes out, and the Courtney can auto attack, picks up the kill.
That was such a long fight between Cyrus-Q and also Svenskeren as you're casting that other mini skirmish going off, but I gotta say, Lego My Ego needs to give Vizik a big kiss after saving his life with that beautiful stun. Definitely would have been a double kill for Freddy had that stun not have landed when it did, but with all the action at top, that is going to allow Haydal and also Mixer to pick up the Drake for their team. So again, just jumping up on an opportunity, noticing both junglers were top lane, nobody could contest, very nicely done.
Yeah, Lego played it really well. He waited for the opportunity where he thought he could assassinate someone, so then it was 2 versus 1, and then immediately flashed over the wall so there was no counterplay. And then another flash came up from Renekton. So all over the board there was very interesting things happening. And at the bot lane I think a tower went down, so action all over the board and something that we can't really keep track of. But in the mid lane, Svenskeren leaping forwards with Elastic Slingshot, looking to seize just middle turret. There's going to be very little response so far. I'm not sure if Eternity can respond in time.
Yeah, they definitely can't. You got 3 scary players breathing down your neck. That is going to be the second unretorted tower going down. Lego My Ego. You know, Kassadin is regarded in solo queue as being a terror. In the right hands, definitely is. And Lego My Ego is a phenomenally strong player. Thus far, though, Pulse, he's just not been given the tools to run with this game yet. He doesn't have the items that are going to pose a big threat. He's not doing phenomenal damage to the Death Sentence lad. That's going to be Lego My Ego getting absolutely destroyed. Q. I just heard someone leave there, so are you back, Pulse?
It wasn't me. And another team fight kicking off in mid lane. Svenskeren moving out with Let's Bounce. Lego My Ego still trading off. Double kill comes out for Vayne. Now looking for the third onto Zyra. But Grom backs on off and won't really be able to do too much. A Wave who's fairly weak as a support role.
Yes, apparently it was our streamer that left here, so apologies for that if you suddenly cut off on the audio. But at top lane, Vizic and Freddy going man to man here. Both of them just trading lots of damage. Dominus was used from Renekton, but Slicing Maelstrom was not from Vizic, so Freddy needs to be a bit careful here once he goes back and he calms down again. And he needs to be careful that Vizic doesn't just jump on top of him and crush his face. So definitely one to watch out for at top, but that was a really nice push down mid-pulse. They picked up 2 towers and a couple kills as well.
Yeah, in the top lane though, Vizic's actually looking for the engagement. Shoots out with Slicing Maelstrom, counter-engage from Nigza. Wants to go deeper, but not quite looking for the dive just yet. Dominus has already been popped. Ignite comes up very shortly. They could potentially look for this counter gank coming in from Sarah's Q. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because Cyrus Q right now does not have his blood well. It's on cooldown, so he needs to be a bit more careful than usual. That could be playing, that could be festering in his mind. Death Sentence comes out, anticipatory, but doesn't quite manage to land. So Cyrus Q is going to go back. Now lots of pings coming up. That's going to be Vayne, Thresh, Talon all joining their compadre at top lane. Kennen is not in a good position. Slicing Maelstrom is on cooldown and he will be falling in a heartbeat there. Renekton taking a bit of damage from the tower, just about surviving by the skin of his teeth. But another pickup there, Pulse. It's pretty much been the story of the game thus far, with Haydals Fight Club just picking up kills and objectives here, there and everywhere.
Yeah, they're just ahead on all fronts, and also in their map mobility, their general calls have just been better. And it always seems like Eternity are not only on the back foot, but always reacting to Haydal Fight Club's decision-making and their shot calling. So they've never been able to instigate a fight of their own, or if they have, then it was either the wrong call or they haven't done it at the right time. There's no real saving grace on their team just as of yet. You could definitely see Caston picking up a couple kills. If they get into a scrappy team fight like a brawl with Dragon, then he could pick up 1, 2 or 3 kills. That might be enough to swing them back into the game. Dragon in fact comes up in 2 minutes, so that is an opportunity for them to do so. Svenskeren looking once again for the counter jungle onto Aatrox, which is a bit counterintuitive. You don't expect that to happen from a Zac onto an Aatrox. We have Fina looking for the presence, and there will be a smicing contest. Svenskeren picking on up.
Yeah, top lane as you speak, and then Haydal just going ham. Final hour was used, Blade of the Ruined King as well, and there is nothing Kennen could do to survive. Drake is up in 1 minute 30, so definitely going to be on both teams' minds right about now. But interestingly enough here, Pulse, as well, having a quick look at Vayne's item build, this is something you don't see too often. We've seen Reckless's kind of approach here as Blade of the Ruined King, Phantom Dancer, Static Shiv. Whereas this is Blade of the Ruined King into Phage. That's not something we see a great deal of.
Yeah, gonna just because the engagements come out to Firelight. Let's Bounce comes down. Should be picking up the third charge. Cyrus Q from the side doesn't want to go all in. And that was a 1 for 0. Another tower goes down at top and they're pushing them all over the board. But yeah, I agree with you. Phage is something I haven't seen for a while. It doesn't build into Frozen Mallet anymore. Yeah. And I saw it in... I saw like the Trinity Force build in Season 2. I want to say the end of Season 1 by Candy Panda, who used it for a while because it had great burst, but that's when Vayne was kind of a different champion in terms of balance changes. So at the moment, we'll see what he's shooting for.
Yeah, I would expect to see a Triforce next, honestly, or maybe it's just a case of thinking, oh, it's quite you know, it's fairly cheap item to get a bit of health and attack damage. Not entirely sure, but building the Zeal alongside it definitely suggests to me it will be Triforce next. A couple Doran's Blades added to the mix as well. And Haydal currently 6-0-3. That's incredibly scary. This game, I have to feel, Pulse, is kind of spiraling out of control right now for Eternity. Everywhere they look, they are pushed in. 5-0 on towers. That is a Drake for 0 as well, soon to be 2. Whenever Haydal's Fight Club feel like it, because it has respawned now. And it's just a question, Pulse, how can Haydal's Fight Club lose from this position? It would have to be a Herculean throw. They'd have to do something monumentally terrible.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Baron is still up though, so it's an objective they could potentially fight over, but it's going to require Eternity to have exceptional ward coverage, hence putting themselves out of position while they get that done. They're going to have a bodyguard with Grom, who is very, very squishy. He's level 8 right now, he's hugely behind the curve, so they'll need someone to be babysitting him while he wards up not only their jungle, but at least the river, so they can't allow that Baron to be taken away from them, because that might be the point of contention. But it's not looking great. I've been thinking a little bit more. However, Castor jumping onto Grom, nukes him down in an instant. Sarge trading off with Blades of Torment coming out. 1-for-1 trade. Now Mixer is on the point of contention. And jump coming in from Svenskar and counter engage with Slicing Maelstrom. Freddy follows up. Lego Ego drops low, but for all versus one, picks up the kills and the triple kill. Just what we were talking about before. Casting can still get fed.
Well, I said they need to make a Herculean throw. This could be the beginning. The ripple in the pond of that throw right now. Now Cyrus Q has found himself Haydal, who is not a part of that fight at all, Pulse. He was busy farming top lane. And you have to say, it simply wasn't worth it. Yes, Cassadar got a free pick on Zyra, but at the cost of 3 of his own team, including himself. Simply not worth it. And with that triple kill coming in, I was speaking previously about Kassadin has not reached that scary point yet. Speaking of which, he's at top right now against Haydal. Should be able to escape the Rift Walk. Here comes the flash though, and the follow-up as well. Shut down from Haydal, and it's going to move to 7-0. But as I was saying before, he is starting to edge towards that scary Kassadin that we all fear to play against. 5-3, has the Rod of Ages, so they need to make sure they kind of put this one back to simmer again, Pulse. They don't want to make mistakes like that. You don't want to allow Eternity a whiff, a glimmer of hope to pull themselves back into this game.
Yeah, they have themselves a good start. If anything was going to be their saving grace, Caston needs to be. He'll drag them through the mid game and he'll allow them into late game. Zhonya's Hourglass is a great pickup for Kennen as well, because though he's slightly underfarmed, in fact he's doing very well in terms of farm compared to the rest of his team, and actually very good for the minutes as well. So he's actually doing fairly well, and it means their front line in general is very good. Corki doesn't have exceptional amounts of damage at the moment. Give him time to get 2 or 3 items, and as long as they can stall out, they should be in good shape. They have very good stalling potential in terms of counter-sieging, so as long as they keep up there and hit with the turrets, they should be good. They need to drag it though to at least 30-35 minutes.
I'm just trying to kind of piece together, apart from Kassadin, where the damage is going to come from though, Pulse, because you look at the other items on the field right now for Eternity, it's looking a bit bare. Yes, you've got a Trinity Force on Corki, which is an important item for him, but nothing really afterwards. Doesn't even have Berserker's Greaves right now. Aatrox is just building tank, as you'd expect, and Kennen has a Zhonya's Hourglass, but nothing else. So even right now, you can see that there's not too much respect from Haydal's Fight Club. They're keeping 3 people in mid, not scared about the assassination of any of their players, and taking 2 on Baron. And they can pick this up as well. I don't think Eternity have a clue what's happening right now at Baron.
Yeah, they're trading blows on the Baron, and Svenskar should be able to keep himself sustained. Doesn't have the Spirit Visors just as of yet, but they're definitely doing it. It's not even going to be close either, and yeah, Eternity doesn't even twig. Baron goes down, taking away the potential even to go for a fight. Dragon is getting to the stage where Dragon isn't an objective they'll fight over anyway, and exceptional play and decision making from Haydal's Fight Club.
It's just so smart, and they kept 3 players in mid very visible. They were like, look at us guys, we're in mid, we couldn't possibly be doing Baron. Our Vayne's hiding in the bush waiting to kill everybody. Nope, we're taking Baron right now. So, you know, with the purple relics flying around, they're going to be very scared, but here comes Cassadar from the side, doing lots of damage all by himself. Freddy now joining the mix. You got Vayne and Zac starting to join the party. This is a 3 versus 5 situation. They still haven't gone down. Corki, however, is going to pick up the first kill in this engage. However, the cavalry has joined the ranks. Let's bounce, forcing flashes, forcing rift walks. Here comes the flash as well from Svenskeren. He's caught into position. Finite is very low. Zyra falls once again. Grom firing through the passive, not to land on anybody. Lego My Ego is now the next target. Gets Blade of the Rune King, will be forced to flash away with his Rift Walk. But at the end of the day, 3-for-1 trade. Haydals Flight Club looking in command.
Yeah, and taking the game, Surrenderboat comes in, and that's the first game going to Haydals Fight Club very convincingly in the first game of the first best of 3.
Convincing is definitely the word I would use for that victory. It wasn't even a case that Eternity played too bad, honestly. I mean, Grom got caught a lot in bot lane, yes, from the death sentences, which kind of escalated Haydal to an out-of-control Vayne very early on in that game. But that being said, Eternity, it's not a case that they got completely ruffle-stomped there, Paul. So in game number 2, they can just brush themselves down and say, okay, this is a clean slate, let's just bring it back to basics, let's take it from foundations and see if we can pull this one back. Because remember, it is a best of 3, there's still a long way to go yet.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think it was necessarily a composition problem, but it was just some of the decision-making that was made by the team in general, so maybe they'll go with maybe a more split-push composition, because it doesn't require as many calls from the team in general as it does from the player and decision-making from the individuals. And of course, all these players in this game are very high ranked in their own solo queue individual skill levels, so they should be able to make that call if it happens. And just as a side note, I was thinking about the Trinity Force on Vayne and the recent changes to Phage. I could definitely see it, because that's definitely Vayne's playstyle. Blade of Rune King works really well, not only because it does huge damage, but the chasing potential, in the sense that it slows them down and speeds Vayne up. For raw boots are also very strong on Vayne, because on auto attacks it increases movement speed, and so does Phage. So in a team fight, when she likes to get up close and personal and dip and dive between the ranks, then that helps that ability even more.
I fully agree. As an AD carry player myself, whenever I play Vayne, movement speed is key. It just really is. Her kiting potential is huge. Her chasing potential is also huge, because remember that Final Hour gives you extra movement speed as well, dependent on if you're near champions or not on the enemy team. So it's just an all-around nice place to be as Vayne. When you have the Blade of the Rune King, it is a core item. Pretty much 99% of Vayne players are going to take Blade of the Rune King first. And after that is kind of where a lot of Vayne players split up. So it was interesting to see Haydal going for the Phage into Triforce. What I would say, however, Nika, Pulse, is that in the future, if Haydal didn't have such a great start, I'm not too sure he still would have gone for the Phage. I think maybe it would have been a case that he had such a strong beginning that he was allowing himself to snowball even harder.
Messers, did you just call me Nika?
I did, by accident.
Which is not even Nico, which is Enzi's name. It's Nika. I'm not Nikasaur. That's not, that's not a thing that has just happened.
Maybe
but
I'm just, subconsciously hoping that you get the Riot gig, for the Summoner Showcase. That's what it must be.
Potentially. Yeah, I mean, I could easily take Nikasaur's position. I am questionably male, so, But anyway, we're going to get off there before we embarrass ourselves further, so we'll see you in the next game for the second game of this first best of 3. See you soon.